All right. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for coming on Facebook Live with us and participating in a much needed discussion. This evening, we have with us Ms. Detrail Dearbone. She is the founder and CEO and owner of Dearbone Counseling Center. So that I won't mess up anything that she has to say in her title, I am going to hand it over to her and we'll go from there. And just to let you know that Miss Dearbone is one of our board members at Top Flight Defense. She runs the mental health program. All right, Detrail, have at it.
Okay. Good evening, everyone, and I'm delighted to be here today. So I'll give you a little bit about my background. I am licensed in multiple states. So I'm licensed in Illinois, Georgia, Kansas, and Missouri. And I love to do therapy, so that's why I'm licensed in so many states. I'm also a certified drug and alcohol counselor, and I'm licensed to provide sex offender treatment to sex offenders. So I have multiple areas in the mental health field that I work in. I've been in the field about 30 years, and I've worked in hospitals, multiple hospitals, in Illinois Department of Corrections, in Illinois Department of Human Services. So tonight, I just want to talk a little bit about mental health, taking care of your mental health. I want to give time for questions. This is an important topic. So we're going to get going. So taking care of your mental health. Probably mental health has always been important, but I'm seeing more and more people after COVID. I had one lady today who didn't realize how badly she was depressed after COVID. So, COVID changed the world for everyone. And a lot of people didn't realize that. So, what I'm going to talk about, so mental health. Mental health refers to our social, emotional well-being, and it impacts how we think, feel, and behave. Um, it plays a role in connecting us to others, making decisions, handling stress, and other daily parts of our lives. Um, so I would like to talk a little bit about several mental health conditions that are, pretty prevalent. So the first one a lot of people have is stress. Okay, stress is a state of mental or emotional strain. Then we have anxiety. So there's a difference between stress and anxiety. So anxiety is a feeling of worry or nervousness. From anxiety, people may have panic attacks. In a panic attack, it feels like you're having a heart attack, but you're really not. Okay. Then there's depression. There's several levels of depression, but depression is a mood disorder that causes a persistent feeling of sadness and of a loss of interest. Then we have layers of trauma. We have acute trauma, and that typically results from a single incident. Chronic trauma is repeated and prolonged, multiple events, such as domestic violence or abuse. And then we have complex trauma. And trauma is exposure to multiple traumatic events. And then we have post-traumatic stress disorder, or you may have it, most people know it as PTSD. And PTSD is a disorder that develops in some people who have very traumatic events. So two people could be in a fire, but both people may not get PTSD. So we still don't know why some people will get PTSD, some people will not. So I talk about PTSD, and that's extreme anxiety. So most people think when they hear PTSD, they think about military veterans. And I'm a veteran of the United States Army. But PTSD, a lot of people have it. So if you think about people who may live in areas where there's a lot of violence, whether, gun violence, sexual abuse violence, they can get a PTSD. I've worked with kids in the DCFS system who have PTSD, because of traumatic events that happened. They went into the system and then they had multiple foster placements. So PTSD is a disorder. Now, a lot of times people don't want to take care of their mental health because there's a stigma behind it. And I'm just happy to know that more and more people are looking to take care of their mental health because, as we know, with the shootings and everything that's going on, you know, people have their views of what's going on, but a lot of that, as you look at it, is people who didn't take care of their mental health. So I'm here to have everyone take care of your mental health. So at some point, I just want to talk a little bit about women and barriers that they have to treatment. So sometimes women cannot get adequate treatment because of a lack of child care. Again, we talked about fear of stigma. What will my family do? My family will think I'm crazy. So I tell people when they come in my office, I don't work with crazy people. I work with people with mood disorders, anxiety, but I don't work with crazy people. Lack of family support, lack of financial support, hopelessness. There's not a whole lot of treatment facilities. When I started 30 years ago, there was a whole lot more treatment facilities, but based on funding, there's not as many. So women, they really don't want to get help because of fear of losing their children. So if I can't take care of my kids, the state may take them away. And then other times people don't get mental health treatment. You know, those that have sexual assault, domestic violence or sexual abuse because they're afraid of talking about it. And then homelessness is another area that causes people not to seek out the treatment. I guess at this point, I would like to know if there's any questions that anybody would like to ask. Cassandra, are we able to take any questions at this point?
Yes, we can. I'm looking on Facebook as we speak, and right now we don't have any questions. But if you keep going and the more people chime in, we should get some people in. But I don't see any questions right now.
Okay, so there's ways to help to improve your mental health. So talking to people, talking to a friend, a family member, a doctor or a therapist. Talking to a doctor or a therapist it can be very scary, very nervous. You know, like I said, most people come into my office and they have a lot of anxiety about coming to see a therapist because again, we go back, they've been told or they've heard that you're crazy if you need to see a therapist. That is not true. And I will tell most people that every great therapist has a therapist. Okay. And that's one thing that I tell people to ask your therapist. Do they have a therapist? Because we all go through life and we, you know, every day there's a different life issue that seems to be happening. So don't suffer in silence. There is a lot of help out there. So stress management. I like mindfulness. That's something that they're starting to teach in the schools now. Mindfulness, meditation, yoga, going for a walk, gardening, taking a vacation, or whatever that you like to help you with your stress. Excuse me. One thing that will help to impact your mental health is if you don't get enough sleep. So people don't realize that you typically need somewhere between 6 to 8 hours of sleep, even adults. You need to eat well, eat healthy, exercise, and get out and socialize. So we go back to COVID, and we'll talk about COVID in a little bit because during the period, and still even now, some people are still having anxiety about getting out and they don't socialize. So socializing is very important. Our young people learned that. those that went to school. Well, matter of fact, those that had jobs. I have people who wanted to go back to work because that's how they got to socialize. So this is a big one. Take a break from news and social media. Um, both of them can be pretty depressing. And I have people all the time talk about the negativity on social media, and it's okay. I tell you, if you have people that like to put negativity on their social media, unfriend them. That's not a problem. Your news, it's a balance. We need to know what's going on, but we don't need too much, because too much negativity will help cause depression. And then setting boundaries. This is a big one for people. So we have to set boundaries in our lives. So you got to set boundaries at work, at home, and at friends. I mean, at work, at home, and with friends. So people think that I'm mean if I set a boundary. No, you're setting a boundary as to what is important to you. So when you set a boundary, be firm. Don't apologize for your boundary. No, knows a boundary. So if someone asks you to do something and you really don't want to do it, no is a boundary. It's not being mean. So boundaries come in different areas. So there's sexual boundaries, there's space boundaries. And I tell people, typically, if you put your arms up, that area in between your hands and you, that's most people personal boundary space. So if you ever notice if someone gets too close to you, you may feel awkward. So it's okay to ask someone to step out of your boundary. Let's see. So other types of things you can do for your mental health is acupuncture, aromatherapy, cognitive behavior therapy, or you may hear that called CBT. So cognitive behavior therapy, it allows you, so what that is we all have irrational thoughts. And what cognitive behavior therapy does, it allows you the opportunity to learn what is an irrational thought and then to correct it with a healthy thought, a rational thought. So that causes a lot of anxiety, depression, is having thoughts that are irrational. So that's what CBT is. And then we have something that I'm trained in. It's called EMDR, or eye movement and reprocessing. So that is what happens is so this is used a whole lot with people with trauma. So if you have a traumatic event, that memory gets caught, it gets stuck, is maladaptively stored into the wrong part of your brain. And what EMDR does, it reprocesses the memory and stores it in the correct part of the brain. So people wonder, why do they have nightmares from trauma? It's because that memory is not stored adaptively. It's still maladaptively stored. Okay. You can do massage therapy. That's really good. And then there's medication. For some people will need medication to, kind of help. I typically, some people can do therapy alone. Some people do therapy and medication. Some people only want to do medication. That's okay. But what I tell people is that if you do medication alone, you're not really getting to those underlying issues. So people don't like to come in and talk about the things that are bothering them, but that helps you to feel a lot better. Oh, so what we have to do as far as taking care of mental health is to normalize conversations about mental health. So if you look at your news now, more and more you see every day, they're now talking about mental health, and that's a good thing. So going back to COVID, so what people do not realize is during COVID, you actually lost a lot of things. Some people lost their freedom. Some people lost family members. You lost communication. You're no longer able to get together for birthday parties. I know I had some kids, now I'm getting them, they're like ninth and 10th grade now, and they didn't get to have their 8th grade graduation. Everything that goes along with 8th grade. So that's part of their lives that are gone forever. And so those things are losses, and you can definitely grieve a loss. So another way of dealing with your mental health is the 5 stages of grief and loss. So some people are in denial that that loss has actually happened. Okay. And there's no particular order. And then people may get depressed. People may get angry. And then people may bargain. Why did this happen? I still hear people bargaining about COVID. Why did my family member die? The last stage is acceptance, accepting that that loss has happened. If you look at some theories think that it's a 6th stage. I also believe in it, meaning and purpose. So taking care of your mental health is finding meaning and purpose in your life. So other things that you can do to help take care of your mental health is to learn to love yourself. Okay, create a support system, a positive, let me say that, a positive support system. That's very important. Having people around you that are healthy, doing self-care. So setting healthy boundaries, we talked about those, and planning around your busy schedule. Okay, so most people are very busy, but you still have to take time out for you in enjoyment. So those are some things that I think is very important as far as self-care. So we can open it up, Sandra, if we have any questions or any comments.
People on Facebook are quiet.
That's okay.
They don't have any questions as of yet. I think when we are in a forum like this and the discussion of mental health, a lot of times you will find people, they just want to listen. They become afraid to share their experiences with fear of judgment. And as you mentioned before, the stigma of having mental issues. I know a lot of women are more apt to admit to PTSD, anxiety, and depression than men. And without going into statistics on suicide, because of mental illness, the suicide rate is higher in men because most men don't want to admit the things that they're going through, the trauma that they've experienced in their life. They don't want to discuss it, so they keep it inward, and not understanding that the more that you hold those things in, the harder it's going to be and the damage that it does to you on the inside. And so women, because most of us are emotional creatures, we tend to let it out. We'll cry or we'll get angry, and we'll fuss and cuss and do all of the things that we have to do, because all of that stuff is bottling up inside of us. And so what I normally would tell people is that you don't know what diseases and things that are festering inside of you. And so while holding in all of that stuff, that disease, that the ailments inside of you is stirring and stirring. And the more stress and the more anger and the frustration that you pile on top of it, it's like a volcano. You know what I mean? And
Mhm.
so I've seen a lot of people, now all of a sudden they have lung cancer, breast cancer, uh, bone cancer, and no smoker. All of the reasons that they had in the past to cause these types of cancer, they're not doing it. I had a young lady I knew that had lung cancer, and she never smoked a day in her life. It
Mhm.
wasn't even from secondhand cancer. But one of the things, the factors in her life, she was under a lot of stress. And I've seen that in a lot of friends of mine with breast cancer. And I'm not saying that those are the reason. That is what I've seen in people. So the fear of not wanting to share. But I'm just glad that you're on here and you're talking with us
Mhm.
to give them an avenue to listen
Mhm.
to some of the things that you specialize in, with hopes that maybe somebody will reach out to you. You know, partnering with Top Flight, we discussed once before, counseling, you know, uh, the free initial counseling
Yeah.
coming in. If you mention, Top Flight and different things like that, maybe they will. So, before we end, let's give them your
Mhm.
information so they can write it down. Like I said, I'm recording this, so
Mhm.
they'll have that as well.
Right.
I don't
Well,
have a
before we,
question, but I have, what you're, I just have something to say. Hello, my
Mhm.
name is Valerie. I'm also on the board for Top Flight Defense. And I know you said during, COVID caused a lot of, stress. Obviously, we couldn't go nowhere, whether it was birthday parties, funerals, because, everything, pretty much your life was at a standpoint, and just daily life, whether you have children, whether you have a lot going on in your daily life, it does play a major role. And sometimes you have to just shut the world out. I just can't, I had a couple, I had a death in my family, last year that I'm trying to get through. So I was taking my anger out on everybody, whether it was going to the store and everybody just got on my nerves, and I was being very rude, and that's not me, but that's just the way, I was dealing with it. And so I went on vacation, and I just turned my phone off. I didn't care about what was going on Facebook. I didn't care what was going on the 5 o'clock news. I mean, I was out of the state, I was in Puerto Rico, but like sometimes you just have to shut the world out to just decompress, whether you're just by yourself and, just whether you're in your house, whether you're crafting, whether you're listening to music. So there are different ways. I don't go to see a counselor no more because I just didn't like, what they told me, because I feel that when you go to talk to the counselor or the therapist, they should never tell you it's your fault, because sometimes it takes a lot for that individual to make that step to go in there and have somebody listen to her, their problems or what they got going on. And I don't take medication, so my way of dealing with whatever I got going on is either crafting or playing music. So like you said, there's different avenues, so it's not always medication, it's not always like a therapist and stuff like that. But I believe COVID, had a lot to do with a lot of, or not really a lot to do with it, but it bring out more because you were more aware of what was going on because you couldn't do nothing.
Mhm. Right. And thank you for that, Valerie. So, Valerie, one thing, if you remember what I said, and a therapist should never get upset. You're right. A therapist should never tell you that is your fault. But I said every good therapist has a therapist. We all came up, I tell people, I don't know anyone who came up in a family that wasn't dysfunctional. So, in order for us helping people, we need to get help too. So that's from your doctors to your nurses to your therapists. So I have people ask that question all the time. And I said, look, every great therapist has a therapist. Okay. So life, every time you turn the TV on, life is happening. And that's what I tell people. Okay. So, Valerie, I'm sorry for whatever therapist that has said that, it is never, never your fault. Something I want to say about what Cassandra said is that, so with males, you're right. But the good thing is I'm getting more and more males. So the good thing about since COVID, I'm getting more males, more African Americans, and more Latinos. So, and those are populations where you don't talk about it. Okay. You don't talk about it because we don't have those problems. Other races have those problems. But I will let you know we have those problems. Okay. So with males, they also don't want to be labeled as weak. Males don't want to be labeled as weak. Military people don't want to be labeled as weak. So guys, my military people, you are not weak. Remember, I told you, I am military. Okay. Every good therapist has a therapist. No one that I've met so far grew up in a functioning health household. But one thing that Cassandra said is that I'm going to be doing a training every quarter. She was right on a lot of stuff. So next one I think I'm going to do hearing that is called ACEs, Advanced Childhood Experiences. So not only is everything that's going on now, the things from your childhood also impacts diseases, heart diseases, cancer. So we're going to get a date, and that'll be the next training. And I hope that you all tune in, because that one is really interesting. When I do that to people, so as a therapist, I want you to understand how you got to my office. Okay. And I'm psychodynamic. That means we have to go back to your childhood. So for a lot of people, your childhood is still impacting you today. And ACEs is really, really important. Like I said, from that, people have learned, wow, that's why I have heart disease. That's why I have cancer. But yeah, so not taking care of yourself, keeping all that stress bottled up inside of you, it definitely will create health issues. I tell people, you take your car to get the oil changed every 3,000 miles. You get your eyes checked yearly. You get your teeth checked yearly. You go to the doctor yearly. How many people actually go take care of their mental health? Not until you.
Can I intervene on that one right quick? And it's going on what Valerie was saying, and I agree with you. I have no idea what therapist she went to. She needs to report that therapist. But I myself, I go to therapy because I've dealt with some things in my past that's troubling me now. And COVID had a lot to do with it. I was an extrovert, and I use the word was. Cassandra, just any and everybody, hey. And then when COVID struck and we couldn't go out, I now have become more introvert. I know it's hard to believe. But I don't mind being in the house now. I don't mind not going any place. I don't mind working from home because that's what I do now. But my counselor, I go see her twice a week, and she's constantly telling me, you're doing the right thing. That's the way it's supposed to be. And I go to her for reassurance that how I'm handling things, I'm handling it right. How you can sit at a computer and you can't quite grasp some things, then you sit there and you're crying. Why would you do that? I mean, it's simple, it's easy, but when you are dealing with other underlying issues, the smallest thing will set you off. And that's why I find it very helpful. And I would tell any and everybody, find you that counselor. In the minute that counselor does not feed into your psyche the way that you need them to, you need to then move on to someone else. But counselors are very good. I have praying friends for me. I have good friends that I can call and talk to, but sometimes those same friends are going through something. And I always tell people life is happening and you can't get angry when someone isn't there for you because life is happening. COVID 2020, and it's so ironic. And then I'm gonna say this and I'm gonna leave everything else alone. It happened in 2020. What does 2020 stand for in the medical field? Perfect vision. That's what COVID did. It gave us perfect vision for our crafting. That's what Valerie does, crafting. She probably never would have thought about crafting, but she did it. You know what I'm saying? People opening up all kinds of businesses, finding their new niche. 2020 gave us that vision. So we need to learn how to grasp, accept it, and adapt to it and work hard in moving forward. But please, please, please seek counsel.
Yeah. And let me say that out of COVID, something really great happened. I hope they continue. So before COVID, only a few insurance companies allowed us to do telehealth. And I'll tell you, the military had most of them, okay, because they have members all over. And I work with military people in Bahrain and Germany, so I'm a preferred overseas provider, and I have been. But with COVID, all the other insurance companies have allowed therapists to do telehealth. So that was a barrier too. Well, now I got to take time out of my day. Now I got to try to figure out, I got to drive to the therapist, I got to drive home, and that took time off. But with telehealth, we come straight to your home. So like I'm doing now, and some people are in their pajamas, and I say, however you come, you just be you. So telehealth has allowed more people who, like I said, don't drive. Remember, that was a barrier. But so telehealth, I mean, COVID allowed the medical field to now come to you in your home. So you can do it right there in the privacy of your home. Like I said, therapy works, counseling works. There's great therapists out there. But please, we all have to take care of our mental health. I'll be back. Like I said, I love doing this job. I've been doing it for so long. But we all have to take care of our mental health. We really do. It is so important. And let's break the stigma, especially in the minority communities, and with males, and with the military. So the military, I'm gonna speak, I know we have some veterans on here. Veterans and still active duty. That is the hardest part because we'll go even further, law enforcement. You can't have mental health issues and be functioning, quote unquote. Okay. So those areas look down on mental health concerns, and they should not, because anybody in those fields, like I said, we'll go back to it. No one came from a functional house. Most people didn't. If you know one, let me know. But
Okay.
so we gotta get rid of some of the stigma that people can be functioning and still be in the military, still be police officers, still be nurses, still be therapists. Is this you taking care of your own mental health so that you don't have a breakdown? Okay.
Just sorry, one last thing, but I think COVID also allowed us to be more aware of who we are. Because like Cassandra said, well, I crafted before COVID, but I discovered new things because it kind of didn't have a choice, or tried new things that I wouldn't have tried if COVID didn't come around. Yeah, it's very convenient that you can talk to your doctor, if your doctor calls you and stuff like that. So there were some positive things out of COVID. But I think it just got us to be more aware of find who basically we are more, and our hidden talents and stuff like that. And it's also, like you said, there's good therapists, there's good and bad in every profession, right?
Mhm.
But
Yes.
it took me a lot to actually go in there and it was at Jesse Brown. It actually took me years, you know, I'm 43. It took me years to sit there and say, hey, you know what? Let me talk about what I need going on and just talk about it, get it from underneath the carpet and talk about it. You know, so I felt good to go in there and finally get the courage, right? The courage to go in there and speak what was going on, but to be told it was my fault. I've not stepped back in that office and it's been over 8 years.
Okay, well, you know, like I said, I specialize in trauma, I specialize in military. So real quickly for the military, I am a MOS, Military One Source provider. I am a TRICARE provider, Optum through the VA, I'm VCCN, I'm a Wounded Warrior provider. So, and even people who've been out with regular insurance, they see my file. So, you know, and this is, as we know, military trust military. So I have a big caseload in military. I am glad to be able to do this. And Valerie, let's see, I was gonna say, this is everyone. So I've been a supervisor for years. And anybody who knows me, I'm pretty tough, only because I tell you, like you, Valerie, we get one shot at people, typically in the mental health field. If I come looking for therapy, and that is not a good experience, I'm not coming back. So all the people that I've trained, all my interns, you know, I'm tough on them because we get one shot most times. And we have to make that the best experience. So people, like I said, people are coming in there already, they're anxious, they're nervous, you know, and if the therapist cannot have a rapport, make them comfortable, you know, they're not coming back. And we know that. Okay, so again, I am here. I work all the time, but I'm also training. So I like to say I'm training the next group of therapists for when I retire, you know, to have the same type of passion that I have for the mental health field.
Well, I thank you. I really do. I thank you for all that you do. And I thank you for being a Top Flight Defense Incorporated mental health coordinator.
And I am so happy to be here.
Yes, I appreciate having you on our team. I'm looking forward to more training that you can provide. We need to talk offline because there's something else that I need for us to do in the mental health field. And there's someone else I need to connect you with. Look, I'm gonna put it out there because what's my line? A closed mouth don't get fed. We need a brick and mortar. We need a place that we can invite people into and get you in office there as well so they can come in and see you there as opposed to, and I get it, yes, we do it virtual, but we need a brick and mortar that we definitely need. But I thank you. Is there anybody else on the line, whether it's Facebook or Zoom, that have a question, comment, or statement? I don't see anything on Facebook. People watching though. We got a bunch of people watching. They looking. So, and I have this recorded, so I will upload it. Thank you for the comment.
Thank you, Leslie.
Yeah, I'm going to record it. It will be on our YouTube channel for all to follow and watch. Please share, like, and comment, all that good stuff. And our next session will be this Friday. We have partnered with Rush University Medical Center, the cardiologist department, and we will be discussing keeping a healthy heart. We done talked about the brain and our mental health. Let's keep our heart healthy. And we are not only partnering with Rush University Medical Center, we are also partnering with Delta Sigma Theta, Cedar Rapids, Iowa City Alumni Chapter. They will be in on this as well. So I'm hoping that everyone can tune in on Friday. Sign up for our newsletter, www.topflightdefenseinc.org, and get that newsletter. It's a free newsletter. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. And is there something you want to leave us with? You should be called Dr. Dearbone and not just Ms. Dearbone. But is there anything you would like to leave us with?
Do not be afraid to seek help. Okay. Do not be afraid. And my door is always open. You can get me through Top Flight. And like I said, I work all the time because I want us to have there's a healthier world.
Give
So
them your
if you-
email address, your Top Flight email address, so you'll know when
Yeah.
someone respond to you, they seen you on Top Flight.
I will do that. So yeah, don't be afraid. Don't be embarrassed. I am out there. If you've already had an experience, come see me. Okay.
All right, so her email address is DETRALL at topflightdefenseinc.org. That is the Trail Dearbone, and she's here to help you. What is the name of your company again?
Dearbone Counseling Center.
And where is it located?
Well, I have multiple offices.
There you
I
go,
do
come on.
telehealth, but I have an office up in Gurney. And if you know, I want to be next to Great Lakes. So I deal with a lot of Navy Marines up at Great Lakes. I have an office in Elmhurst, and I have an office in Joliet.
Joliet. We're
Joliet.
definitely talking now. All right, so with that being said, I am going to say goodbye to Facebook. Don't no one on Zoom hang up yet. I want to do this. Give everybody a heart. Tell them thank you for coming in. Continue to follow us because we love you and we need to see you around.